It's all so fucking hysterical! Laugh with me!
Hello and welcome to this Gamecrux review of Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots. My name is Aeon and I will be your reviewer for today. Guns of the Patriots, as you probably well know, is the latest installment in Snake's continuing saga to rid the world of bipedal robots and nuclear weapons. While fairly similar in most respects to the previous games in the series, it deviates from traditional Metal Gear games through its standardized low-down camera system, lack of a radar system, and 5-act structure. For those of you who've never played a Metal Gear game before, here's a quick rundown. You play as Snake, a solo infiltration specialist who must sneak about instead of merely shooting everybody in sight. While shooting everybody is certainly always an option in these games, the unique focus on stealth is what makes the series so engaging. The games are always also famous for having incredibly long-winded cutscenes dealing with unusually serious topic matter for video games, such as genetic modification, nature versus nurture, the control of information in the internet age, and even nuclear deterrence theory. The series' creator, Hideo Kojima, also of Policenauts and Zone of the Enders fame, is famous for breaking the fourth wall with his humour, such as the classic fight with Psycho Mantis in the first Metal Gear game, where he would read your mind through Controller Port 1, or the battle with the End in Metal Gear Solid 3, where he would die of old age if you saved the game as you fought him, and then didn't play for another week. The series also has an incredibly complex and convoluted plotline, filled with contradictory conspiracy theories, meaning that Metal Gear Solid 4 had quite the job ahead of it in trying to tie all of these plotlines together in a satisfying way. Now, probably the most important change to the gameplay of Snake's final mission is the removal of the radar system, and the standardized, low-down, third-person camera, which gives you access to much less information about what's going on around you. Because of this, it's more natural to engage with the game's various systems than in previous Metal Gear games. We often ended up simply playing the map. In Guns of the Patriots, you'll use more of the game's tricks than ever before, making for a more satisfying experience. That isn't to say, however, that the game forces you to experiment, and truth be told, 90% of people who play the game will only experience about 10% of its depth. However, more so than ever before, Metal Gear Solid 4 provides variety to the more straightforward player. It accomplishes this using the same style as independent games, such as Braid, Limbo, or Chained, where a simple mechanic is used to achieve a variety of different things within the varying contexts of the game world. For example, the opening chapter of the game takes place in an active war zone, and taking out anyone will help the other side win that battlefield. As one side wins the battlefield more than the other, the conditions around you change and it will become increasingly difficult or easy to sneak through. So you have to try to balance your short-term needs with, I'm going to try to get past this dude, maybe I'll shoot him in the head, with long-term needs of, well, if Raven's Sword win this battlefield, they'll bring a tank up and then that will be harder for me to sneak through. In each environment, the conditions by which it's easiest to sneak through change, so it forces you to constantly be considering the environment around you, which, alongside heavy set pieces, keeps the gameplay feeling really fresh throughout. The change to the lower down camera system also gives Kojima the ability to integrate vertical play spaces into Metal Gear Solid 4 far more than he ever could in previous Metal Gear games. This is especially good for Kojima as a developer because he prides himself, and really succeeds, at forcing us to do uncomfortable but fairly obvious things in games, sort of surprising you with the gotcha moment, there's an enemy on the ceiling, why don't you ever look at the ceiling? And because of our natural instinct to just look straight in front of us at eye level, he does some pretty clever things, let's just leave it at that. Speaking of clever things, the plot hits all the right notes for a Metal Gear title. It has multi-layered, contradictory conspiracy theories, Otacon's got some love woes, and good old-fashioned double crossings occur throughout. The narrative really leads you to care about the world that these characters inhabit and the characters themselves. There are some pretty significant pacing issues to the narrative which are undeniable, and lots of times characters will speak for far too long, saying far too little, but using far too many words. While many of the series' mysteries are sadly tied up with a single MacGuffin, the more important ones are given time and consideration, such as the nature of Liquid Ocelot, which is a real eye-opener and classic Kojima style. The characters are not as engaging as those in Snake Eater. However, all the disparate plot threads are tied together pretty damn well, considering how many of them there are. David Hayter's performance as Snake is really powerful throughout, and lends the epilogue some real oomph. The rest of the cast maintains also a fairly high quality of acting, although Otacon's moping will have you cringing every time. While the narrative has some pretty major pacing issues and really needed ambitious editing, it does tell one of the more engaging stories in games throughout. The gameplay is the best in the series, and the most accessible to newcomers, although the story makes no concession to new arrivals. However, this does not prevent the game from being pretty easily recommendable to anyone, as Hideo Kojima's inventiveness and meta-humor really have to be experienced, and there is no form finer for these than in Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots.